Have Garmin designed, built and released the ultimate Apple Watch competitor? And if so, is it worth you taking a look at if you're in the market for a new sports activity tracking smartwatch? What you are looking at right now is the new Venu X1 from Garmin, and as you can see, it's very different to what we're used to from Garmin. Not only is it the biggest screen they make, but it's also in the thinnest chassis or housing they make. Now this is not my Venu X1, I don't own one, and I don't intend to. And later on in the video, I'll explain why I don't want to spend my money on one. But you might, so let's take a look at it in a bit more detail. Now as we know, the Fenix 8 is currently the best all-round sports activity tracking smartwatch that you can buy on the market today, at least in my opinion. But have Garmin finally created the ultimate Apple Watch competitor? So why would we think that this is an Apple Watch competitor but the Fenix 8 isn't? Well, the Fenix 8 is a traditional shape, which looks like a proper watch. The Venu X1, very much in the style of an Apple Watch. So if this thing is the most Apple Watch looking Garmin on the market at the moment, let's take a look at some of those specs. Now, like I said, the display is the biggest they make. It's a 2-inch display, which is pretty big. But at least if you're a boy, 2 inches is big. Maybe if you're a girl, perhaps it isn't. It has a scratch resistant sapphire glass screen in a fiber reinforced polymer style chassis housing. Now I'm not going to go into all the specs on this thing because that would make for a very boring video. You can obviously look those up yourself, but let's cover off a couple more of the more important ones, probably things that would be appropriate for a sports activity tracking watch. Notes on the phone, we've got 5 ATM of water resistance. So if you're going to be splashing around in your paddling pool, it's absolutely got you covered. Now that 2-inch display and those 5 ATMs of water resistanceness, they sit in an 8mm thick watch case, which makes it thinner and also wider or bigger screen than the Apple Watch. It combines a titanium case with that scratch resistant sapphire lens, and that screen is also an AMOLED display, which, same as my Fenix 8, AMOLED display, that's a good one. Because it's so thin, it makes it suitable, according to Garmin, suitable for wearing all day. Most watches are suitable for wearing all day, isn't that the purpose of them? I think what they're probably getting at here is it's so low profile that if you're someone who wants to be able to track your sleep and you need to be able to wear the watch overnight, you don't want some big clunking thing on your wrist getting in the way, or you find that uncomfortable. I think making it so thin means that you're not hopefully going to have that sort of problem. So only you can decide on that one. For me, wearing a watch overnight, not an issue at all. I'm so used to it that it doesn't matter. But I think that's what they're getting at with that suitable for wearing all day thing. Now, being a Garmin, there is a mighty list of activities that you can track using this thing. Some of them are pretty random as well, but you name it, if you can think of a sport or an activity that you want to track some form of metric, then it's probably in that list. And if it isn't, you can create your own using the customizable versions of it. So the sports activity side of things, it's absolutely got it nailed, but then so have most of the others, to be fair. It's what they do, right? Okay, let's cover off another big one here, and this one's got me confused because I don't really know where it sits in the range. So looking at the Garmin UK website, this is the UK website, remember? It is available for £679.99, which is, I think, too expensive because it doesn't come with cellular, whereas the equivalent spec-sized Apple Watch, the Series 10, certainly Zoe Series 10 at £699, so an extra £20, gets you all the Apple-ness and it gets you cellular. So it just feels like that's too much. I think if they'd priced it at $499, maybe even $599, just come in underneath that little bracket, they would have nailed that one. But what do you think? Is £679.99 too much for this watch? Let me know below. I'll be interested to hear your thoughts. Now, talking of where these things sit in the range and is this Garmin's equivalent to an Apple Watch, Let's look at something that I've spoken about before, and I still stand by this. Garmin make superb sports activity tracking watches. That's what they do, it's what they've known for. I was even trying to think back, Zoe's first Garmin, which I think she had in 2012, that was all about tracking activity. It was a watch, but it tracked activity. There was no smart features. Garmin make very good sports activity tracking watches, which they then added on some smartwatch capabilities. Apple, the other way round. They make superb smartwatches that they've begun and got better at adding on fitness and activity tracking options. So Garmin sports activity tracking smartwatch, Apple smartwatch with sports activity tracking features. That's kind of where they sit for me. There is a crossover, I know that, and I understand that if you love one more than the other, then you know there's arguments for which is best, and I'm going to tell you which is best in just a second, and also why I've got what I've got. The big one here, something that Garmin do very, very well, is battery life. AMOLED display. This thing, according to Garmin, it has an 8-day battery life. However, that's if you're not using the always on display. Allegedly, if you activate that always on display, which if I owned one, if I was using one, I would, because I want to be able to glance at my watch and see what the time is, not have to raise my wrist. I know, oh, big hardship, Tim, you've got to raise your wrist, but doing what I do for a living, sometimes I need to be able to just glance to see what the time is without a client thinking I'm clock watching, because I'm not, honest. As soon as you switch on that always on display, you will get 6 days less battery life. So all of a sudden, that battery life has gone from 8 days down to 2. And that's not very good for Garmin. So just for the record, just so we're absolutely clear on this, I firmly believe that the Apple Watch is the best all-round smart sports activity tracking smartwatch. And if you want to know why, there's a video coming up on that very soon, so make sure you're subscribed. Zoe and I, we pitched this and hers together head to head in some real life challenges when we were up in London, and the Apple Watch wins. And like I said, it is the best. However, it's not the one I own anymore. I used to, but not anymore. I have a Phoenix 8. I love this very much. And the reason is because I can put up with the shortcomings to have something that to me looks like a traditional style of watch. After all, it's the first thing you're going to see. The first thing you will see is the shape design of the item that's on your wrist, and if it's not quite what you want it to be, it's forever going to be niggling at the back of the brain. So when you're spending this sort of money, just take that into account. Me personally, I can put up with the shortcomings to have something that looks a bit more traditional, that I prefer the look of, but it still gives me everything that I want it to be able to do. All right, let's get back into some details. So we've done the price, we've done the battery life, we know it's got a very large AMOLED display. Let's talk about the design of the watch. It's obviously very, very similar to Apple, and if that is your thing, then cool, that's your thing. But a square watch, for me personally, is just not what a watch is supposed to be. I don't know why, I really don't, just some weird thing in my brain saying, no, Tim, a watch, that's supposed to be round. If it's on your wrist, it's supposed to be round. A clock, like this one up here, that can be any shape it likes, that doesn't matter. But a watch, personal preference, a watch should be round. The software on board, as good as it is, it does look dated. I mean, I'm even going to say the same thing, my Phoenix 8, the software on board of that, again, is very good, but it does feel a little bit dated. The user interface, and therefore the user experience, is not up there with the sort of money that we're paying for these things, so they need to go back and work on that for sure. That's actually something that Apple have got bang on. Their Watch OS is, I believe, the best user experience in a smartwatch today. So in conclusion then, Garmin Venu X1, weird price point, don't understand that. Questionable battery life when you're using the always on display. Again, don't really understand that. Talking of displays, it's AMOLED, good. It's the biggest one they do. It's a 2-inch display, that beats Apple definitely. An 8mm thin chassis, water resistance, all the sports activity tracking functionality you could wish for. Some smartwatch bits and pieces, but not as good as Apple. It's the wrong shape, but some of you might like that, and that's fair enough, personal preference. Is it worth the money? I don't think so. I think there's some better options out there. If you were to list everything that you wanted your sports watch to do, we could come up with some better solutions. I don't think this is the way forwards yet. Okay, that's enough waffle about watches from me just for the minute. If you found this video useful, you got something from it, consider clicking that like button, hit that subscribe button. It will take you but a second and it's completely free to do. And when you've done that, watch this video next where I'll tell you how to set up your Garmin watch so that you never miss a lap at your next High Rocks event. All right, as ever, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.